Madeline. This is my ASMR channel. So today we're going to read one of my favorite books. This is Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. It's about a seagull who was very special and who learned how to fly very, 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 very high. It was morning, and the new sun sparkled gold across the ripples of a gentle sea. A mile from the shore, a fishing boat jumped the water, and the word for breakfast flashed through the air, till a crowd of 1,000 seagulls came to dodge and fight for a bit of food. It was another busy day beginning. By way of alone, out by himself beyond boat and shore, Jonathan Livingston Seagull was practicing. 100 feet in the sky he lowered his web to heat, lifted his beak and strained to hold the painful, hard-twisting curve through his wings. The curve meant that he would fly slowly, and he would slow until the wind was a whisper in his face, until a ocean stood still beneath him. He narrowed his eyes in fierce concentration, held his breath, forced one single more inch of curve. Then his feathers ruffled his tail and fell. Seagulls, as you know, never falter, never stall. To stall in the air is for them the disgrace and dishonor. But Jonathan Livingston Seagull, unashamed, stretched his wings again in the trembling hard curve, slowing, and stalling once more. He was no ordinary bird. No ordinary bird. Most gulls don't bother to learn more than the simplest facts of flight, how to get from shore to food and back again. For most gulls it's not flying that matters, but eating. For this gull, though, it's not was eating that mattered, but flight. More than anything else, Jonathan Livingston Seagull loved to fly. This kind of thinking, he found, it's not the way to make oneself popular with other birds. Even his parents were dismayed as Jonathan spent whole days alone, making hundreds of low-level glides, experimenting. This kind of thinking he found... Oh, sorry, I started another. He didn't know why, for instance, but when he flew at altitude, less than half his wingspan above the water, he could stay in the air longer with less effort. His glides ended not with the usual feet-down splash into the sea, but with a long, flat wake as he touched the surface with his feet, tightly streaming line against his body. While he began sliding into feet wap, landing on the beach, then pacing the length of his slide in the sand, his parents were rather much dismayed indeed. "Why, John, why?" his mother asked. "Why is it so hard to be like the rest of the flock, John? Why can't you live low, flying to the pelicans, the albatross? Why don't you eat, John, son? You are bone and feathers." "I don't mind being bone and feathers, Mom. I just want to know what I can do in the air, at what I can't. That's all. I just want to know." "See here, Jonathan," said his father, not unkindly. "Winter is not far away. spots will be few, and the surface fish will be swimming deep. If you must study, then study food and how to get it. This flying business is all very well, but you can eat a glide, you know. Don't you forget that the reason you fly is to eat. Jonathan nodded obediently. For the next few days he tried to behave like the other girls. He really tried, screeching and fighting with the flock around the piers and fishing boats, diving on scabs for fish and bread, but he couldn't make it work. It's all so pointless, he thought, deliberately dropping a hard-won anchovy to a hungry old gull chasing him. I could be spending all this time learning to fly. There's so much to learn. It wasn't long before Jonathan Gull was off by himself again, far out to sea, hungry, happy, learning. The subject was speed, and in a week's practice he learned more about speed than the fastest gull alive. From 1,000 feet, flapping his wings as hard as he could, he pushed over into a blazing steep dive toward the waves, and learned why seagulls don't make the blazing steep power dives. In just 6 seconds he was moving 70 miles per hour, speed at which one's wing go unstable on the upstroke. Time after time it happened. Careful as he was, working at the very peak of his ability, he lost control at high speed. Oh, this is the pictures. Very beautiful pictures. Back to the reading. Climb to 1,000 feet, full power straight ahead first and push over, flapping to a vertical dive. Then, every time his left wing stalled up an upstroke, he'd roll violently left, stall his right feet recovering, and flick like fire into a wall, tumbling spin to the right. He couldn't be careful enough on that upstroke. 10 times he tried, and all 10 times, as he passed through 70 miles per hour, he burst into a churning mass of feathers, out of control, crashing down into the water. The key, he thought at last, dripping wet, must be hold the wings still at high speed. To fly up to 50 and then hold the wings still. From 2,000 feet he tried again, rolling into his dive, peak straight down, wing full out and stable from the moment he passed 50 miles per hour. It took tremendous strength, but it worked. In 10 seconds he blurred through 90 miles per hour. Jonathan has set a world speed record for seagulls. But victory was short-lived. The instant he began his pull-out, the instant he changed the angle of his wings, he snapped into the same terrible uncontrolled disaster, and to 90 miles per hour it hit him like a dynamite. Jonathan's seagull exploded in mid-air and smashed down into a brick-hard sea. When he came to, it was well after dark, and he floated in the moonlight on the surface of the ocean. His wings were a ragged bar of lead, but the weight of failure was even heavier than his back. He wished feebly that the weight could be just enough to drag him gently down to the bottom and end it all. As he sank low in the water, a strange hollow voice sounded within him. There's no way around it. I'm a seagull. I'm limited by my nature. If I were meant to learn so much about flying, I'd have charts for brains. If I were meant to fly at speed, I'd have a falcon's short wings, and I live on mice instead of fish. My father was right. I must forget this foolishness. I must fly home to the flock and be content as I am, as a poor, limited seagull. The voice faded, and Jonathan agreed. The place for a seagull at night is on shore. From this moment forth, he vowed, he would be a normal gull. It would make everyone happier. He pushed wearily away from the dark water and flew towards the land, grateful for what he had learned about work-saving, low-altitude flying. But now, he thought, I'm done with the way I was, I'm done with everything I learned. I'm a seagull like every other seagull, and will I fly like one? So he climbed painfully to 100 feet and flapped his wings harder, pressing to shore. He felt better for his decision to be just another one of the flock. There would be no ties now to the force that had driven him to learn. There would be no more challenges and no more failure. And it was pretty just to stop singing and fly through the dark towards the light above the beach. Dark. The hollow voice cracked in alarm. Seagulls never fly in the dark. Jonathan wasn't alert to listen. It's pretty, he thought. The moon and the light twinkling and the weather shriving out little beacon trails through the night, and all so peaceful and still. Get down! Seagulls never fly in the dark. If you were meant to fly in the dark, you'd have the eyes of an owl. You'd have charts for brains, and you'd have falcons' short wings. There in the night, 100 feet in the air, Jonathan Livingston Seagull blinked. His pain, his resolution vanished. Short wings. A falcon's short wings. That's an answer. What a fool I've been. All I need is a tiny little wing. All I need is to fold most of my wings and fly under the tip alone. Short wings. He climbed 2,000 feet above the Black Sea, and without a moment for sudden of failure and death, he brought his forewings tightly into his body, left only the narrow swept tugger of his wing tips extended to the wind. Into the wind, and fell into a vertical dive. The wind was a monster roaring at his head, 70 miles per hour, 90, 120, and faster still. The wing strain, now at 140 miles per hour, wasn't nearly as hard as it had been before at 70. And with the faintest twist of his wingtips, he eased out of the dive and shot above the waves, a grey cannonball under the moon. He closed his eyes to slits against the wind and rejoiced. 140 miles per hour and under control. If I dive from 5,000 feet instead of 2,000, I wonder how fast. His vows of a moment before were forgotten, swept away in the great swift wind, yet he felt guiltless, breaking the promises he has made for himself. Such promises are only for the gulls that accept the ordinary. Such promises are only for the gulls that accept the ordinary. One who has touched excellence in his learning has no need of the kind of promise. By sun up, Jonathan Gull was practicing again. From 5,000 feet, the fishing boats were specks in the flat blue water. Breakfast flock was a faint cloud on the dust motes circling. He was alive, trembling ever so slightly with delight. Proud that his fear was under control. Then without ceremony he had in his forewings, extended for his short, angled wingtips, and plunged directly towards the sea. By the time he passed 4,000 feet, he had reached terminal velocity. The wind was a solid beating wall of sound against which he could move no faster. He was flying now straight down at 200 feet per hour. He swallowed, knowing that if his wings unfolded at that speed he'd be blown into a million tiny shreds of Seagull. But the speed was power, and the speed was joy, and the speed was pure beauty. He began his fallout at 1,000 feet, wingtips saddling and blurring in the gigantic wind, the boat and the crowd of gulls tilting and growing meteor fast directly in his path. He couldn't stop. He didn't know yet even how to turn that speed. Collision would be instant death, and so he shut his eyes. It happened that morning. Then, just after the sunrise, the Jonathan Livingston Seagull fired directly through the center of a breakfast flock, taking off 212 miles per hour, eyes closed, in a great roaring shriek of wind and weathers. The gull of fortune smiled upon him this once, and no one was killed. By the time he had pulled his beak straight up into the sky, he was still scorching along at 160 miles per hour. When he had slowed to 20 and stretched his wings again at last, the boat was aground on the sea, 4,000 feet below. His thought was triumph. Terminal velocity, a Seagull at 214 miles per hour. It was a breakthrough, the greatest single moment in the history of the flock, and that moment a new age opened for Jonathan Gull. Flying out to his lonely practice area, folding his wings for a dive from 8,000 feet, he set himself at once to discover how to turn. A single wingtip feather he found, moved a fraction of an inch, gave a smooth, sweeping curve at tremendous speed. Before he learned this, however, he found that moving more than one feather at the speed will spin you like a rifle ball. And Jonathan had flown the first aerobatics of any seagull on Earth. He spared no time that day for talk with other gulls, but flew past sunset. He discovered the loop, the slow roll, the point roll, the inverted roll, the balkant, the gull bunt, the pinwheel. When Jonathan Seagull joined the flock on the beach, it was full night. He felt dizzy and terribly tired. Yet in his delight he flew a loop to landing with a snap roll just before touching down. When they heard of it, he thought of the breakthrough. They'll be wild with joy. How much more there is now to living. Instead of traps slugging force and back to the fishing boats, there's no reason to live. We can lift ourselves out of ignorance. We can find ourselves as a creature of excellence and intelligence and skill. We can be free. We can learn to fly. The years ahead hummed and glowed with promise. The gulls were flocked into the council gathering when he landed, apparently had been so flocked for some time. They were in fact waiting. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, stand to the center. The elder's words sounded in a voice of highest ceremony. Stand to the center meant only great shame or great honor. Stand to the center for honors what is well. The Gauls' foremost leaders were marked. Of course, he thought. The break was flogged this morning. They saw the breakthrough. But I want no honors. I have no wish to be leader. I only want to share what I found and show those horizons out ahead for all of us. He stepped forward. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, said the elder, stand to the same center for shame in the sight of your fellow Gauls. It felt like being hit with a board. His knees weren't weak, his feathers sagged, there was a running in his ears. Center for shame? Impossible. It's a breakthrough. They can't understand, they're wrong. For his lank, reckless irresponsibility, the solemn voice intoned, violating the dignity and tradition of the Gull family. To be center for shame meant that he would be cast out of Gull society, banished to a solitary life on the far cliffs. One day, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you shall learn that irresponsibility does not pay. Life is an unknown and the unknowable, except that we are put into this world to eat, to stay alive as long as we possibly can. The seagull never speaks back to the council flock, but it was Jonathan's voice raised. Responsibility? My brothers, he cried. Who is more responsible than a gull who finds and follows a meaning, a higher purpose of life? For 1,000 years we have scrabbled after fish heads, but now we have a reason to fly, to learn, to discover, to be free. Give me one chance. Let me show you what I found. The flock might as well have been stone. The brotherhood is broken. The Gull intoned together, and with one accord they solemnly closed their ears and turned their backs upon him. This is very interesting for me. Is this very interesting reading for you too? We are going to continue the other time. If you like it, you can write me if you want the second part of this book reading. I hope you want it. Bye. I will be happy to read some more. So, subscribe. Put a like for me.